Okay, we're ready.
All right, we're gonna join here on the Peninsula Clean Energy Executive Committee meeting of Monday, November 10th, 10 a.m. Nellie, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, one second. Yes, hold on one moment here. Yeah. Our first roll call is going to be remotely, so I want to make sure that they're able to make it. I have somebody labeled on the meeting as SF Tamales Bay.
That's me.
If you are one of our board members, could you please let me know who you are?
Is that Adam?
Yes.
I'm not. Oh, there you are. Hello. Hi, Adam. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Leslie. It looks like someone tall.
Okay. And so, okay. So our first roll call is for San Mateo County. And Director Gaucher let me know that she will need to participate remotely under AB 2449 Just Cause exemption. However, it doesn't look like she's made it online yet, so we'll pull her in when we're able to. But continuing with roll call, Atherton?
Yep.
You Brisbane?
Here.
You Burlingame?
Donna Colson.
You Hillsborough?
Leslie Ragsdale here.
Menlo Park?
That's Nash.
Millbrae?
Anderson here.
San Bruno?
Marty Medina.
San Mateo?
Adam Lorraine.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have a quorum.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. At this point in time, I'm going to open the meeting up. If anyone online has public comment and would like to make any kind of a public comment about some item that is not on the agenda. It's right there.
Let's see. We do. If there are any members of the public who would like to make public comment, if you'll please raise your hand on the Zoom platform. And it doesn't look like we have any public comment online. That's for items not on the agenda.
Right.
Oh, wait, oops, and Supervisor Gaucher is here. Hold on one moment.
It's here. Okay.
Supervisor Gaucher.
Good morning.
Good morning. I understand you're participating under AB 2449. Are there any members of the public over 18 in the room with you?
No,
Great, thank you so much.
thank you.
And it looks like there's no public comment online, Chair Colson.
Okay, that sounds good. We will go ahead and move. Let's have an action to set the agenda and approve the consent agenda items. Anyone?
So
Thank you, Director Fung.
second.
Second by Vice Chair Medina. Roll call vote, please.
San Mateo County,
Yes,
Atherton,
Yeah.
Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Aye.
San Bruno,
Yeah.
San Mateo.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, the chair report, the only thing I have to report here is, I'm just gonna point out a little bit about our prior meeting. So we're having some troubles getting quorum in the finance meeting. So, Mr. Dinan, Director Dinan, I think they're gonna end up switching. He's gonna become the main person, has expressed interest in attending that committee. So I'm gonna look to make that recommendation.
From East Palo Alto.
From East Palo Alto. So we fill Carlos's spot. So we're gonna check with him in the next couple days and I'll let you all know unless anyone has any other issues or concerns. That would really be kind of it for me. I think so,
Okay.
because I have a big report coming up.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
And I'll take Sean, and then we'll do public comment for items 3 and 4.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Just a couple of quick logistics and then I'm gonna get into the heart of what I wanted to spend some time on this morning with you all. The first is to let you know that unfortunately, we had a number of cancellations for the Diablo Canyon, the CAISO field trip this week. I think all except Director DeGolia, so thank you for your flexibility. We are going to go ahead and reschedule that since Director DeGolia was the only board member scheduled to come. We will likely reschedule sometime in the spring. And then follow up here on the Diablo Canyon field trip. We've had a number of board members cancel on that one as well. So we'll still go ahead with it on the 11th. We leave on the 10th and we leave on the 11th and the tour is on the 12th. And then I think what we'll do maybe toward the end of the year is sort of reassess what would the board like to see for educational field trips in 2026.
I think the biggest problem here is just, it's the holidays and they're really tough.
Yep, I would agree. So anyway, just letting you know that's what's coming up. Yes.
And at this moment, we need to give final, head counts today. And we still have a quorum of interested participants from the executive committee. So those of you who are interested, if anybody is,
Can opt out.
yeah, if anybody can opt out or knows that they may not be able to make it, please let me know, before you leave today.
You know, I'm out. I can't.
Yes, you are out.
As I told you.
Yes, we were very over on executive committee, so I appreciated that.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay. All right, so I'm now to move into the heart of what I want to spend a little bit of time here. Some of you may be aware that there in the past couple of weeks, there's been negative press regarding MCE Clean Energy up in the local Marin newspaper. And they're clearly having some challenges with a group of board members and, some disconnect. So what this served up for us though, and I think a lot of the CCAs around the state, is an opportunity to kind of like take a deep look at what those articles said. There was a series of them, to then use it as an opportunity to reflect on our own practices and make sure that, we're checking the box on a number of the issues that were brought up in the articles. I read them all carefully, right? This is the CCA that I'm served by. I'm not going to opine on the accuracy of those articles, but it is an opportunity to help, us. We came together as a staff to let's really look at this line by line and figure out how do we stack up? How do we compare in terms of performance and opportunity? So 3 areas were covered in those articles: governance and management practices and the relationship between the two, financial health and rates, energy portfolio and cost trends. I'm going to handle the first 2, and then Roy put together a number of slides on an update on our portfolio and what we're seeing out there for costs. So first up is governance and management. And I would also want to just flag that thank you to Nick Beeger, who put a lot of this together. Thank you to Roy and others who contributed to just bringing us up to speed on where we are. So I am hopeful. I believe that we have a transparent board and management relationships here at PCE. We try very hard and I think are responsive to board direction and requests. We turn those around as quickly as we can. We do biannual board surveys. There will be another one of those coming your way this summer. We have a high level of board communication and engagement. So the board chair and I meet every week. That will soon, potentially be the vice chair, but in between, we keep the officers up to date through email and other things about what's going on. We have a bi-monthly board newsletter. We have a number of working staff committees, so procurement, marketing, programs, legislative, and then a number of ad hoc subcommittees, one of whom you'll hear from today. We rarely have quorum issues except for the last couple months. So this is something we're aware of, and we're gonna nip it in the bud and hopefully take care of it so we don't have it going forward. We have a fully functioning C-suite and a seasoned CFO. One of the criticisms in these articles was that they just did not have enough. They didn't have sort of that top chair filled by a qualified CFO. They do now. We have very strong finance and risk management committees in place. So we've had an audit and finance committee here at PCE since day one. And then in the last year, as you know, as part of our risk enterprise effort and initiative, we put together a risk oversight committee. And that committee meets to go over all of the major contracts. This is a power resource item, and so it's everything over 5 years. Okay, excuse me, everything under 5 years, because everything over 5 years comes to the board of directors for approval. On the financial health, I'll ask you to jump in if you like, Nick, but our costs have generally been in line with budget over the last 3 fiscal years. It is not perfect. We've been up some years, down in others, but the takeaway is that we have not posted any losses in any quarter over the last 3 years, even after deferring 128 million to our rate stabilization fund in the last 2 fiscal years. Costs of power and operations have definitely increased in the last 2 years by an average of approximately 19 to 20%. So where we really see that is cost of power. We see that in program expense, and we see that in staff compensation. And that really, that staff piece, I think, is around 24%. That has been driven by the fact that our staff team, as you know, has expanded. We've doubled in size. We are at carrying capacity. So unless and until we have new long-term revenues coming through the door, and there's lots of ways to do that, load growth, other opportunities, we're at carrying capacity right now. And we are also planning, we'll be talking more about this in 2026, of doing a deep dive programs review, just to make sure that our expenditures are in line with return on investment and how we want to pay for all the different things that we do. So I know that's right up your alley, Director DeGolia. So just letting you know where we're at, but generally I must say in very good shape, clean audits every year, including this year. So we are in very good financial health. In terms of rates, your board has been very clear over the last couple of years that rate affordability is maybe even equal in priority, along with our ambitious climate and environmental goals. That has been a shift. On the other hand, you know, we've never, ever since day one launch had rates that are higher than PG&E's electric generation rates. Historically, PCE has been at 5%. In the last 2.5 years, we've been at 10% plus. And we're hopeful that we can keep it that way in the coming, year. Unlikely, we may have to drop back to 5, given what's going on with PCIA and all of that. But everyone is very clear on our team that affordability and offering discounts to our customers is essential. As you know, you've heard before, we've had cumulative customer savings of over 210 million since 2016. The strategic plan that you're about to hopefully adopt in next week has, I think it's 200 million, maybe more now, over the next 5 years. So really continuing on with a commitment to affordability and discounts. You all know that our cash reserves are very high right now at 422 million. We know this, and we have done that so that we are able to handle very well the headwinds that are coming our way. And we've just learned in the last few weeks, we think it'll be worse than we anticipated for this coming year with PCIA and the increase in power costs, which we'll hear more from Roy about. This one is critically important, and I wish that the entire board were in this room to hear it, because this is an easy number to attack, that we're somehow, stashing cash. And we anticipate that will be largely depleted, and we will come in still above our required 180-day minimum. But somewhere between that target of 250 and 180 is what we're anticipating. So we're going to be using that and drawing it down to maintain discounts for our customers. Anything else before I move to Roy? I get it all?
Yes,
Okay.
Director.
Yes.
Price.
Just a question, the articles, were they in the IGA?
Yes.
Is there a way to send them to us?
Yes.
Because it might be one where there's a paywall.
There is a
There is
there is
payroll.
a paper.
Yeah. happy to send it to you, with the request that, you know, we're trying not to just sort of promote.
Disseminate it. out.
Yeah, but happy to send, we have, in fact, Nellie, would you mind doing that? Would everybody here like it?
Yes.
Thank you.
I've already.
All right. You'll see that the report largely reflects some of the criticisms of it. Okay, Roy, I'm gonna turn this over to you. I'll drive if you want me to advance the slides for you, okay?
Sure, sounds good. And good morning, everyone. Roy Streisand, Director of Power Resources. Okay, so I'm gonna dive a little deeper into our cost of energy trends. There are many different factors affecting cost of energy every year. We have an evolving market, and whether that's climate change, that's supply and demand dynamics, and political factors, the market always changes. And we also have an evolving portfolio, as you can see from this slide. Back in 2020, we had 300 megawatts of long-term contracts, and today we have 1.7 gigawatts of contracted resource in our portfolio. Not all of them are online yet, but as they come online, our cost of energy will shift. So there are factors that are within our control, that are factors beyond our control that's affecting cost of energy. So I'm going to, if you can click on next, Sean. So I'm going to talk about the cost of energy trends and market prices that are influencing cost of energy in the past couple of years. And lastly, we're going to talk about the power content label. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide, let me orient you on the graph. On the x-axis, these are the fiscal years. On the y-axis is average cost of energy in dollar per megawatt hour. So those are per unit cost of energy. As Sean mentioned earlier, our cost of energy did climb up year over year since 2020, fiscal year 22-23. Because of all the products in the market have become more expensive over here, especially in 2024. But next year, so the blue graphs are actual numbers, and the gray graph is the gray bar is projected a budget number for fiscal year 25-26. So we are projecting the cost of energy to go down from $98 to $88 per megawatt hours next fiscal or the current fiscal year that we're in. So that is good. But on the flip side, also as Sean mentioned, that because of a lower market, our PCIA could be higher. So on the cost side is lower. On the revenue side, we're probably also expecting to be lower, and therefore next year could be challenging, although the cost of energy is lower. The line graph also on here is showing percentage of our whole operating expense. So the cost of energy in fiscal year 22-23 represents 91% of our operating expense, and it has come down a bit over the years, and next year it will be lower to 86% for next fiscal year. Any question on this slide? Okay, next slide, please. Oh, I have control now. Thank you, Brianna.
You do, okay.
Okay, let me control it. Okay, thank you. Okay, this slide shows the same story. Instead of dollar per megawatt hour on the y-axis, it's now showing total millions of dollars of cost of energy. So and the two bars for each year is budget versus actual. That's what we're going to show on this graph. So for fiscal year 22-23, we're right on budget. We can't get any closer than this. 23-24, our actuals were higher than our budget, primarily because of the exploding RA price that year that drove up the price quite a bit. And then this fiscal year, last fiscal year, 24-25, that was just closed, we were over $6 million under budget. And that was because of lower load than projected and falling market prices for both energy and resource adequacy. And we had budgeted quite a bit of contingency that we didn't use. And then for fiscal year 25-26, we won't have the budget. We don't have the actual yet. It is projected to be lower than the actual in 24-25. So we're trending downwards. So the same story for next fiscal year. Next slide, please.
Are you driving?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. This slide shows the current fiscal, the financial for the first quarter of the current fiscal year. Just a snapshot of how we did for the first quarter. There's a lot of numbers here, but the key number here is the $1.1 million at the bottom right-hand corner of the table. So, and the budget was $70.1 million, and the actual came in $69 million. So we were very close, 1.6% variance. For the total year, as I mentioned on the last slide, we're projected to be about 7% lower than the actual cost of energy from fiscal year 24-25 because of lower prices in the market. Any questions on this? Okay. So now I'm going to move to market prices influencing cost of energy. This graph is a historical trend of renewable contract prices. So there are long-term contract prices from 2003 till 2024. So this report is the CPUC's 2024 per year report. It's prepared in May 2024. It's not the latest, but it does show a trend. So in 2020 is when the first CC is formed. So let's not focus on the dollar per megawatt hour per se, because these are just general information. Market information doesn't mean that we contracted or anybody else contracted at the particular price point, but you can see the trend here. And I will focus on the blue line because there's so many different colors here. The blue lines are solar plus wind at the time. Those are the most dominant or available resources that we contract for. So when the first EC was formed in 2010, the price was above $100, and when PCE was formed in 2016, the price came down to around $60-$70 for wind and solar average. And we contracted, I would say, much lower than that for our own resources. And you can see from 2016, the trend continues to trend downwards. And so our contracted price are quite appealing or attractive and cost effective, if you will, relative to maybe the earlier movers. But what's more concerning here is, oh, sorry, the trend that, or the forecasts represented by the dotted black line are no longer true, because this report is prepared in 2024, and in 2025 we have the new administration with the new tariff, we have all the anti-renewable developments. So we are seeing prices much higher than what's shown here for the future, I guess. So if we were to replot this graph for the future, it's at a pretty steep slope, trending upwards. And so for resource adequacy, as you can see from this graph, 2022, we start seeing 2022, 23, we're still at reasonable RA prices, and 2024 is when the RA prices just exploded. And then 2025, we're seeing it coming down, and 2026, it's really at the bottom. It's really low. So you can see the volatility in the resource adequacy market. So on the x-axis is the month. Most of the resource adequacy costs are incurred during the summer months. And as we have more resources that we contract coming online, we'll have more of a solid foundation for a resource adequacy base. And so the incremental purchase from the market will be lower, and might have access to sell into the market. So as we have these a growing portfolio, our risk becomes smaller. So these are all factors driving resource adequacy costs, which in turn feeds into the cost of energy. And the PCC1 REC price shares a similar trend. It started off in 2022 very low in the 15s, and then starting to pick up, and then it kind of peaked during 2024, and then all of a sudden it dropped, and now it's in the teens for 2025 PCC1. For 2026, it's still priced in the mid-20s at this time. One thing about PCC1, REC, and GHG-free products is that the timing really matters. When we sign these contracts, they can deliver anytime throughout the year. But when we budget for these contracts, we really don't know when they're going to come in, so we have to make an assumption. And typically, and most of the time, how we budget or when we budget, or which quarter we budget these expenses do not align with the actual delivery time of these products. And therefore, every time when Nick presents the quarterly results, and he has this line item for attributes, whether that's REX or carbon-free attributes, the number is very hard to align with the budget, because when we budget it, we don't know when they're going to be delivered. And that's probably an element that contributes to a lot of CCA's financials, because we all use these type of contracts and nobody knows when these will actually be delivered. But the general trend is the prices come down. Now, whether that will change in the future, because all the risks that we were aware of, which is on the next slide, we don't know. But we do know there are upward pressure on cost of energy in future years. That includes the political factors, the ITC, PTC going out, the tariff, the supply chain challenge, the AI low growth, but we don't have enough supply to meet the AI data center growth. Extreme weather events any year can drive up the cost of energy. Expiration of our well-priced geothermal and wind contracts in the 2030s. We do have contracts that will expire, and these are very well priced, like I showed on the earlier slide. But once they fall off the contract, we have to replace them. The current price for long-term contracts for wind and geothermal are very, very high. There's continued to be a lack of resource diversity in the queue. We only have solar plus storage available to contract, a very minimal wind and geothermal. We have regulatory changes, including new procurement orders that might come down, and additional reliability and sustainability requirements. And we've also may face project delays. Any project delays will mean that we have to go out and find replacement products at the current market price. And sometimes that's not good, because we're not fixing our price when we do that. There's some downward pressure on price. We have built a very good portfolio to meet compliance, and we have some well-priced contract that will come online very soon here. We have a very robust risk management policy that we follow. We've implemented very well this first year. We have prepays that the board has approved, and now we just approved the second one that can produce some savings. And there are new changes that are coming, like regionalization and others that could potentially bring benefits to cost of energy and bring it down. But as you can see, there's a clear trend that there's more upward pressure on cost than downward pressure. So we are expecting the cost to go up, and that's reflected in the not most immediate near-term cost projections, but everybody is projecting post-2030s the price of, and the cost of everything will go up. So that is what we'll be facing in the future on cost of energy. But anything can change. Before I move to the power content label, any questions on cost trends and cost of energy in general?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Please, Rick.
So Roy, can you go back to the previous slide and can you explain, I mean, that cost drop in PCC ones is enormous. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so for RPS requirements, it's a 3-year compliance period. And there was a rush to meet compliance last year. 2024 is the last year of compliance year, and 2025 is the first year of a compliance year. So there's a certain a timing element here that everybody wants to meet compliance by the deadline. But also, just like the RA trend, there is just more resource that's built or actually came online than previously expected. The driver for the explosion of the prices of both RA and REX is because there's a belief that there's not going to be enough resource to meet RA compliance, to meet RPS compliance. But as we move forward from late 2024 to 2025, a lot more resource actually did come online. And especially on the RA side too, there is just enough supply now to meet everybody's need. And once there's a transaction in the market that trades lower than the peak, then a domino effect kind of just happens, and then everything starts trading lower because everybody sees that there's just no longer a crunch for products. So those are primarily the reason why prices dropped. It's just an anticipated shortage, but that didn't happen. All of a sudden, there's just more supply in the market, and they just drop the price real fast.
Go ahead, Roy, last slide, and then we'll move on and put the meeting.
Sure.
Thank you.
So this is the 2024 power content label that was recently mailed out to our customers. As you can see at the top, we have 0 pounds of emission, and compared to the California average of 359 pounds of emissions per megawatt hour. Our Eco Plus product content is 50% carbon free, 50% renewable, and then the other 3 products are all 100% renewable. And we expect our 2025 power content label to look a lot like this, and with Eco Plus probably higher in renewables than carbon free, because starting in 2025, we have a 60% minimum RPS internal goal across our retail sales. So that will boost up the renewable content for Eco Plus. But overall, we have a very, very clean power content for our.
And Roy, that 60%, the strategy here is to incrementally improve that over the next 5 years, 26 through 30, so that we can still meet that 100% renewable bogey, 100% renewable and 100% clean by 2030. So in the coming 5 years, you should see that number ratcheting up on an incremental basis.
Yes, that is correct. That is the expectation.
Okay, I'm gonna ask if anyone has questions, then I'm gonna take public comment. in this report.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you, Roy, very much.
No problem.
Let's go with public comment. Does any member of the public have comment on this report? You see anything?
Gentleman here.
Oh, please, yeah. No.
Hello, good morning, Honorable Committee. My name is Raymond Tan, this thing on?
Oh, no, it's not. Please hit the button.
Hello, my name is Raymond Tan. I'm a resident of Pacifica and also a member of the current Citizens Advisory Committee. And I'm speaking for myself as a citizen. I would just like to comment about the first part of the CEO report about the transparency. And it was kind of unfortunate on the renaming of the organization. I felt that it wasn't as transparent, both to the CAC and to the public. And, hopefully moving forward in the future, there'll be, more transparency, with such a big, marketing, public relations related move that affects the organization as well as, public perception. I was very disappointed, as an architect and somebody who's very passionate about sustainability, that the word clean was removed from the name. As it used to be Peninsula Clean Energy, now it's, I believe it's, it was completely removed. So that's quite disappointing. And, I know the history, from, speaking to our other, senior CAC members and staff that, the mission statement of Peninsula Clean Energy was to always, put forth, very good environmentally clean power. And, losing that from the name, which I guess is Westlight Electric, is very disappointing. And I believe it's confusing to the public, because the public perceives that they're getting clean power from the name, and now it's taken away from the name. And, it just makes things more confusing. So, I hope the board maybe can reconsider that and add the word clean back into the name somehow. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any comments or questions here? Yes,
I just want to make note that the name is Westlight Energy, not Westlight Electric.
thank you. Okay. All right, then we'll go ahead and close these two item 3 and item 4. And we're gonna move on to item 5, which is a discussion of our work from the, what do we call ourselves, efficiency committee,
The board ad hoc.
board ad
committee on
hoc.
committees.
yeah, committee on committees. To establish a community feedback form. This is an action item, so I'll go ahead and put on our slides here. On the brown,
This is not working very well, so can you try?
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
do you want to
Yeah,
try?
that's fine.
Okay.
So just a little bit of background on this item. Earlier this year, in the spring, we formed an ad hoc committee consisting of directors Polson, Medina, Mackin, Truesdale, and Taylor. To go ahead and review the functionality of our standing Brown Act committees, which included the Audit and Finance Committee and the Executive Committee and the Community Advisory Committee. These are all committees that are formed and serve at the sort of pleasure and oversight of the board of directors. We reviewed with key questions in mind where PC is now. So you have to remember, many of these committees were formed, all of those committees were formed almost upon initiation of the organization. The executive committee was created first, the CAC and the executive committee, and then we added on audit and finance right away. So the question we were sort of posing is, where we are now, a decade later, and much different organization, going from, 8 to 10 employees to now 65 employees. Are the committees working in a way that best serves PCE for the next 10 years? So it's kind of a forward-looking thing, and this is an opportunity to self-reflect and make some judgment. We researched best practices, governance, and stakeholder committees at other CCAs and other public agencies. And I'll go ahead and focus first on the CAC. I think we're going to go ahead and focus on the executive committee and the audit and finance committee at the next meeting in December. This is the more complicated one. Those ones also had some recommendations for changes. And we'll cover those then. We want to split them apart so we give our full attention to this piece. The CAC was formed in 2017, and many of the original members were early supporters and advocates for PCE. And it was really a situation where we needed and wanted people to go around to cities and help advocate to make sure that everyone understood what we were doing with the CCA. The structure of the committee is 15 members. It's a Brown Act committee, which meets monthly and is staffed by 2 PCE staff people, general counsel, and generally has had always at least 1 or if not 2 board members attending each of the meetings. CAC's scope has expanded over time, but primarily focuses on public-facing issues. it was especially effective in our early community outreach. I'm sure many of you can recall that when we had, for example, some of our like fairs and community events in our communities, the CAC members would come and they would do community outreach. And that early community outreach was really important to help people understand, you know, what was happening. They provided some feedback on our programs. They provided some input on our DEI AI initiative. And they also worked on REACH code advocacy for cities when they could. The Brown Act rules for public engagement, small committee size, and monthly night meetings limits the opportunity for broader community participation and inclusivity. As you know, it's impossible for 20 or 30 people to come and comment or have engagement without limiting them to say like 1 minute or 30 seconds of public comment. And the comments all have to be, as you know, focused specifically on an agenda item. And participation either has to be in public or through our Zoom meetings. We have a very small committee. We can't even represent every single city. We have 21 cities in the county and we only have 15 members. So it's a small committee. Some cities have no representation. And there are even what I would say, some groups that don't have a representation, which might be, say, for example, people who were focused on cost or something like that. The monthly night meetings can also be a little bit of an issue because I've heard in my own community, people who sort of, you know, work all day, maybe have kids. It's really hard for them to get to these meetings because of daycare and, you know, other type of commitments in the evening. So we have a new opportunity. We'd like to explore a community feedback forum, and I think it's a very positive potential structure. This would broaden our community and stakeholder engagement and feedback by forming a community feedback forum that augments PCE's new Voice of the Customer program. Our goal would be to build a better knowledge and support of climate goals and actions among a wider group of community leaders. So this could include, you know, other CACs that cities have, community citizens advisory councils. And we have one in Burlingame. I know a lot of cities have these percolating up, or they just have people in their cities who are interested in a variety of things that we're doing. And it invites ideas and feedbacks on PCE's customer-facing activities from a larger, more diverse group of stakeholders. And when we say diverse, what we're talking about here is regionally diverse, age diverse, socioeconomically diverse, and also diversity of thought. You know, and that could be on a multi sort of issue platform. It might be on the types of energy, it could be on the cost of energy. There's just a lot of things that we'd like to receive more feedback from more stakeholders. We also think this would provide a community-friendly, flexible, and accessible forum for community listening, multilingual, topical breakouts, et cetera. You know, sort of the vision we're having here is potentially, you know, dozens, if not hundreds of people would be able to listen in, participate, provide feedback in real life, and we wouldn't be constrained by the Brown Act. One of the problems right now with our CAC is that a lot of times, the conversation will meander off of the agenda, and that poses some very serious problems for us when we're not, you know, sticking to the topics. Community feedback forum proposal would invite participation from over 50 community-based organizations and interested individuals, including all of the current CAC members. Would all be invited to have a role and a voice at these meetings. We would like to convene meetings. The recommendation would be to convene meetings 4 to 6 times per year to raise awareness of PCE and collect feedback on one or more topics and issues. Those meetings could be on weekends, they could be during the day, they could be in the evening, they could be in person, and they could be more on Zoom. And our anticipated structure would be flexible so that we might have 3 in person, to on Zoom. They might be a Saturday morning when people could come. Maybe we include daycare so people who have children could participate. They could have a few in the evenings. We might have a few in the days so that people who maybe don't work during the day but have commitments in the evenings with children and families and work could then participate. So just giving more opportunities for people to join us. And we would look at equitable, effective community stakeholder engagement. We're going to employ flexible, interactive meeting formats. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. We would leverage small breakout conversations, including in multiple languages. One of the things that I think Kristen and Vanessa have really expressed to us is that the best feedback they get is when they're having a part of the meeting led in Spanish or in Mandarin or Tagalog, so that people can actually communicate in their native language. And I think this Director Fung has always repeatedly brought this to our attention and how important this is. So having those smaller breakout groups in a language that someone speaks as a primary language has been more apt to get more participation than, say, for example, having to listen on headphones to something that's being translated and then the awkwardness of translating back. So we would, as you guys know, we do our outreach grants to organize meetings and recruit participants, but we collaborate with our community-based organizations like our grants. Benefits to PCE and the community. We think it would unlock a more diverse and deeper feedback from our customers and various community stakeholders, while still providing people like our CAC members the opportunity to participate. Enables more public dialogue and conversation. The public is not limited to a 1 to 2 minute public feedback that is germane to the topic. Maximizes our reach and impact and benefit to the agency for staff time invested. So given the number of hours that it takes to run these meetings, we think we'll get a much broader and larger participation. The CAC approves the recommendation for a community feedback format. We did go, and I think Director Ragsdale attended the meeting. They supported the community feedback forum, which we are grateful for and really appreciate. They've been very valuable partners on this, but they would like to make an amendment that the CAC continue in a way that the aggregated effect is to not increase staff time and effort. Staff can comment on this, but in inquiring about this, that is simply not possible. And I'll just say, working on setting up a lot of these CAC meetings and working on the agenda with Jen, sometimes I spend 2 or 3 times more the amount of time helping get that agenda set up than I do our agenda. So sometimes it can be 10 to 20 hours a week, getting things organized. Staffing the CAC is resource intensive, especially the recruitment process. Marty and I have been on the recruitment team since the very beginning. And, we have seen now 20, 30 applications sometimes for 2 or 3 positions. And to be fair, we interview them all. So that's dozens and dozens of hours, and trying to coordinate everyone's time is very difficult. Staff time can be reallocated to reach and listen to more customers and build a broader base of support. And staff can leverage outreach grants to reach a broader base of community members. Proposed next steps, we'd like to obviously have a discussion here. And then in November 2025, we'd like the board ad hoc committee updates and make recommendations to the board for the November 20th meeting. On December 2025, pending our board vote, we would hold our last CAC meeting and invite our members to come to the community feedback forums, which would start in 26. And we would also very much like to celebrate the amazing work that the CAC has done for the last 10 years and recognize all the members who have participated over time. We have the last line.
Yep.
Sunset, we would sunset the current CAC structure at the end of 25, thank everyone for their service, move that over to the new recommended community feedback forum. And we would update and expand the agency's approach to community stakeholder engagement by supporting a recommendation for the new community feedback forum starting Q1 '26. All of this, along with the other work we're gonna do in December, would then be reflected in our policies.
Policy 16.
Policy 16. So with that, I just would like to start with questions that anyone has before I open it up to community, to public comment. And I will point out that the number of us were on that committee, so we've literally spent 40 or 50 hours working on this, so there may not be a lot of questions because these folks were on the committee. So especially for people who are not serving on the committee, if you have questions. Yes, we have a hand.
Adam, that's you.
Yes, Director Lorraine.
Hello, thank you. So I think I just wanted to ask about another potential idea that could perhaps allow current CAC members to participate a little more than is currently being proposed without trying to maintain the same Brown Act structure at a lower cadence that I think has been demonstrated to be too burdensome to work. I just had a thought about how we as the board have some ad hoc committees that seem to afford us a bit of more flexibility than some Brown Act committees, in that they can perhaps be held remotely via Zoom. They're not scheduled rigidly. It's more about, you know, the strategic planning committee, for example, Donna, that you headed. It was based more on need. A doodle would go out from staff to try and get a sense of when we could have meetings when they're needed. And then people could participate. I honestly don't remember if that one was Brown Act, but I feel like we have some ad hoc committees that were not Brown Act. So basically my question is, could we, in addition to the current recommendation of a slight addition amendment, have something of an ad hoc committee that includes the current CAC members, and we could consider, you know, staff could consider particular issues that may not get addressed by the 4 community feedback forums we're considering at this time, that might benefit from this specific group of subject matter experts and volunteers who have a lot of experience and have been volunteering, with an eye toward maybe having like some number to be determined of meetings for specific questions of like bigger topics that come before the board.
Thank you. So I'm gonna ask maybe Jen to chime in on that too, but I just want to start off with reminding everyone that we currently have 3 open seats. There's 15 people on that committee. There's 3 open seats, and there are about 3 or 4 that are terming out, I believe.
Yes, I think so.
So we're gonna be down to like 9, you know, people who, you know, part of the conversation was also if CAC stayed would be shortening up those terms considerably. So that more, because we're just hearing so many people want to participate. So my biggest issue with that becomes then, you know, who's on that, who's not on that, how that works, you know, because the minute you start introducing terms and you start introducing things, I turn it over to Jen, you know, I'm wondering.
Providing special.
Yeah, and you're provided sort of special access. So Jen, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, with respect to the establishment of an ad hoc committee at any time, there's always availability to do that. But we wouldn't be able to establish an ad hoc committee in this fashion because an ad hoc committee can't have continuing jurisdiction. It has to be time limited. So I don't think it's a perfect match if I'm understanding Director Lorraine's proposal.
Well, I would just offer if I might that you know, I'm open. I don't have a lot of requirements on this proposal. I'm just trying to think of another way that we might be able to involve our current CAC members in a way that they might appreciate. in addition to the working groups, which I had heard in previous meetings, I think was in our staff report, that's awesome. And I appreciate that. And I just think like, in addition, I guess what I would get at there is, could we have a pilot that maybe lasts for 1 year to kind of go along with this new proposal for community feedback forums this upcoming year? We might just include, to Donna's point, like the people who would have been on the CAC in 2026 as a starting point. And just, you know, try it out, and at the end of the year, we could review and decide whether like where we might like to go from there. We could dissolve it and start anew.
So the committee did talk about this, Director Lorraine, so maybe I'll turn it over. I think I see, did Director Wright still wanna?
I was just gonna mention the working groups, and then Adam did see that. So I do think that that's a great place to continue to have that input. The working groups that would continue would at least be programs and marketing and maybe one other. So I do think that that's a great place. And also having the current CAC participate in the establishment of the community feedback forum to give give ideas to staff and to the board on how it could be. I don't know that it has to be a committee, but I think that's very valuable. But yeah, I do think it's tricky to establish an ad hoc, because then it's not an ad hoc if it's going to be longer than a year. So
Yeah, even at a year. The idea would be that a year as a test pilot to then continue. So really and truly, to be honest and transparent, it's something that would be, which I think we've heard pretty clearly from our legal counsel, starts to create a problem as becoming then another Brown Act committee. Director Mackin.
I think one of the things that's important also in our discussions, we talked about the number of CAC committee members in the past who turned out and were very unhappy that they turned out. So we were also trying to find a way to keep more people included because they have expertise. There's nothing that precludes our staff from contacting these people that have certain expertise that they've shown over the years and saying, we'd like you to work on this project. Would you like to work on this project? But it wouldn't be under a general meeting group. It would be as a project, an assignment, or a program. So we felt that opening up with more people involved, where they don't have to have a designation of I'm a CAC member, or here's the agenda, which oftentimes the agendas mirror kind of what the board looks at, and the CAC doesn't get to go into other areas, and a wider group could. They can have broad discussions where someone shows up and just says, by the way, I'd like us to talk about this topic in the future. And in terms of learning about what the organization's doing, our board meetings all these meetings are open to everybody. So
Come to that.
come to those meetings, because you don't even have to show up. You can watch them on Zoom.
Yep.
But we wanted that big inclusiveness that we've never had. And I think the CAC had a tremendous purpose in the beginning. It really did, because it was foundational. And now what our marketing subcommittees have found is we need to do a heroic effort to go further. We can't just sit in rooms. We need to go broader. And how do we do that? So we need to open it up to more people faster. And what better way than open the invitation to more people?
Yes, on board, Director Gaucher.
Thank you. Could you talk a little bit more about the level of influence that this group will have with the board, or will there be some level of influence over the board, for the board?
We can speak to that. Sure. So the newly proposed community feedback forum is proposed not to be a Brown Act body for all of the constraints that have been mentioned. The board ad hoc committee, and I'd invite all of you to chime in. The meetings that I participated in have indicated that there would be a requirement for a post-meeting report to go out to the full board. I imagine that Kirsten and Vanessa, who would be charged with managing this effort would be part of that. The reports would come to the board sort of similarly to how they do now. With the CAC chair, it would just now be the staff coordinators reporting out and would have likely a similar level of influence than what we've currently seen. And then the board could choose to take up the matter, agendize the matter, etc. So I don't see a significant change from what we've currently got. I don't know if
Thank you.
others would disagree or agree.
Director Redstone.
I would anticipate, I don't know, my vision for it is that since it would be coming from the staff liaisons, that it would be in writing, which to me personally, as you can see, the taking notes, Colleen and I over here, that having it in advance in writing would give the board more chance to reflect and contemplate than the current very thorough reports that we get. But when you don't have it in advance, it's a little bit harder to take it in. Yeah.
Okay, more, anyone else? Director Gaucher, are you still hand up or are you?
Yeah, my hand is still up, and thank you for that, because my next question was about how are we going to capture the feedback from this larger group? And I think I heard that answer as well. And lastly, how will the shift affect existing relationships with CBOs, or will there be a shift or an impact with our CBOs? It sounds like we would be able to invite more CBOs to participate, but would love to hear from you.
Yeah, that Christine couldn't
Just
speak
myself.
up, but I can address it. So yes, for 100% for sure, we can have more community input and more, like, for example, there's 15 people. We've had 2 from Burlingame and 2 or 3 from Menlo Park, 3 from Menlo Park. So we have 2 cities taking up a third of the conversation, and there's another 19 cities in the county, many of whom don't have any representation or voice or ability to comment. So I think this would allow us to bring in groups like Sustainable San Mateo County, El Concilio. It allows us to bring in the school districts, and schools are another example of a community partner we've worked in with. It allows us to bring in any CECs, community citizens environmental councils that cities have. Those representatives can come. We're just talking about how many community partners do we anticipate could be brought in, and what do you think?
That was actually one of our community partners that was at the door there. That was
Yeah.
Casa Círculo Cultural, one of our outreach grantees here to pick up some materials.
Yeah.
Yes, so we have a list of 50 community-based organizations that we have been in touch with in some way over the last years. Now, this is a drop in the bucket. According to, you probably are familiar with the Thrive Alliance. They do a survey of community-based of nonprofits in San Mateo County. Not all of those are super active, but they find over 500 nonprofits registered in San Mateo County. About 200 of those are active in the Thrive Alliance. We know about 50 of them, so there's more of them for us to meet, which I look forward to doing. We have very active relationships with about 15 of them that participate in our outreach grants, and so we have very deep collaboration with them. And so we look forward to partnering with those groups that with our especially outreach grantees to help recruit more nonprofits to come to these meetings, to get more community members to these meetings, to get their outreach volunteers to these meetings. And also to help us with making the content culturally appropriate, help us with the breakout multilingual breakout groups. So we want to broaden that tent.
Yep. Does that answer your question, Director Gaucher?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Director Nash.
So I see this as a really interesting opportunity to go forward. I do see it as an opportunity for many of the CBOs and also community members. I think will really be very interested in participating, which may be slightly different than the role that our CAC currently plays. Although I also very much agree that the organization's evolved so that we have many people on staff now who can provide that resource. And although we don't want to lose the relationship we have with the CAC members, both current and I think the comment about former, are very actively involved. So I guess I'm thinking that, will there be an evaluation at, maybe at
Like
1
a-
year or something?
Like a
It seems like it
KPI
would be
type thing.
some sort of evaluation should
Yeah.
be written into this to just make sure that
I think
It's
the
working.
the goal would be at the end of 12 months, we would have some data and analytics, how many people came, who were the groups who participated, how many were in Spanish, how many were in this, what areas of the county, did we hold things up north, down south, in the mid? And I think that's another piece of it, not always having it in the same location, get to the coast, get to the North County, get to the South County. So we would have some key performance indicators to try to figure that out. I think we would also be able to look at, like, these are some of the initiatives that emerged from these conversations that we had. And ways that this new initiative has helped drive and inform policy at PCE and kind of what we're doing.
And I think one of the things that's sounds really exciting about this is it may not even beyond the initiatives or other policy changes, just getting more people engaged, involved, being able to ask questions, where where one person's question may trigger something else. It just seems like a really good
Yes, spontaneity of that.
spontaneity.
Yeah, I think that there are two separate issues here. I agree with everything that Betsy just said and that has been said about the structure. And I think there's structure and timing. I think they're different. And in terms of structure, I completely agree with what's been said and what's being proposed. I think that the CAC was organized as stakeholders that we reached out to when we formed PCE to be involved from the very beginning. We really needed them and they provided a great service. And I think that's exampled by their working groups, which have been very effective over time. So in terms of structure going forward, I think the Community Feedback Forum can do what's been said, which is to broaden the outreach and the contact and the opportunity for community members to have input to PCE. I think we have to keep the working groups as part of that. And I think we have to keep the board report as part of that. And I agree with what Colleen said about the board report being written versus just verbal as a real benefit. So structurally, I think this is 100% a win. I understand that there are individuals that have been involved with the CAC that are going to have a more diluted opportunity to participate, but that's a dilution by including more community members. So that's a good thing for PCE, and I think it's a win for us. In terms of timing, there's a real issue, and we saw that in the first slide that was put up, which is that there's much more staff time required if this group meets monthly than if it meets every other month or quarterly. I think it's important that we not go to quarterly, because I just think it's too much disconnect. If I were involved with the CAC and was very involved from that to all of a sudden, and their meetings are full, they really assess what we're doing. And to take that from meeting every month and getting the report every month about what we're doing to every quarter is a huge change. I don't think that's right. I understand it requires more staff time. I don't know whether it's better for it to be monthly or every other month, but I feel comfortable to try it every other month and see how it goes. I think there will be people that feel that they don't have enough input, but that makes the working groups all the more important because they should meet more often than every other month. And
They meet as needed.
yeah. So, and I think the assessment after a year is the right timing and important for us to do, so we can look at what we've done and make sure we've benefited PCE and our customer base, but opening up is the right thing to do, and moving away from the Brown Act limitations is the right thing to do.
Thank you. Other comments? I'm gonna go ahead and open this up to members of the public who would like to comment on this item.
Welcome. Well, good morning, Chair Colson, CEO Marshall, members of the executive ad hoc committees. My name is Robert Whitehair. As most of you know, I'm on the CAC. I am speaking on my own behalf. But I'm very proud of the very effective community advisory committee, what we've done during the 2.5 years I've been on it, and over the 10 years, I guess it's actually 8+ years it's been around. I salute PCE staff for their competence and dedication. I applaud the board and the executive committee for its dedicated service and hard work. My family graciously accepted the 2023 Peninsula Clean Energy Outstanding Residential Modernization Award given because we remove the gas meter and have a net zero utility bill. We get a check every year for PCE and we have no other utility bill. Just last Saturday with PCE and Actera help, my wife and I hosted for the 6th time a tour of our fully electrified home. The many hundreds of attendees in the last 3 years came away amazed by the value of PCE and what you all can do. It matters that we trust each other, that we all share the same dedication, working toward the same goal to support your customers who see electrification as the one most direct, immediate personal response to the climate crisis. I believe that developing this support is more than just seeking the voice of the customer. It is in developing electrification as the first of one of many climate responses. Supporting your customers includes the CAC sometimes recommending strong, difficult action. I know we've taken some action that was made some recommendations that were strong and difficult. It includes being completely clear that cost pressures are on the horizon. We get that. And that the board remains committed to clean energy from solar to wind, no matter what the headwinds, no matter what the cost. And I think that's where the CAC could play a very valuable role, being out in the community as we have in the last few years, advocating for reach codes and so many other things. So in conclusion, I respectfully request that the board not approve staff's recommendation, taking a step backwards to engage the CAC in a heart-to-heart, honest dialogue about the future and maybe about the past as well. PCE did a wonderful job preparing a strategic plan. I suggest using a similar model to guide the conversation between the CAC and the rest of PCE. And I thank you for the time. Thank you.
I do want to make clear that this is not a staff. This is a recommendation from a working committee in conjunction and collaboration with the staff. The staff is not making this recommendation wholeheartedly on their own. They are making it after about 4 or 5 of us on our working committee have had hours-long meetings exploring and understanding, and it's really the committee's recommendations supported by the staff. Okay.
We have more public
yeah,
comment.
please come on up.
And we also have some members with their hands raised online.
Okay.
Hello, again, my name is Raimi Tan, resident of Pacifica, architect and sustainability. I'm an advocate and also a current member of the CAC. I've had the honor of serving about 1.5 to 2 years with just the most amazing people on that committee. The depth of knowledge is just incredible. Some folks like Robert and Michael have gone all the way back to the founding of PCE, and just having that historical knowledge base is fantastic, and allowed me to understand really the history and the real push for clean energy, renewable energy, and the electrification, both homes, cars, etc. And I'm afraid that may be lost, but I'm heartened to hear from hearing the executive committee members and the ad hoc committees that the intent is to cast a wider tent. And I see there's some modifications in the presentation that includes the current CAC members. So I'm really happy about that, and about how Rick and Betsy and Leslie's talked about continuing with the working groups which working groups is amazing and allowed CAC to work directly with staff. And it was a smaller group, so, we're under the Brown Act, limitations. And, we had very in-depth conversations, which affected staff and, affected the CAC meetings and reports out to the board. So I'm glad that that is continuing. I do, echo what Rick was saying about the meeting time. I think, the time I've been on the CAC, the agendas have been full. And having the monthly meeting 2 weeks before the board meeting, 1 week before the executive committee meeting, it's really useful because we're able to discuss something and make a recommendation to both the XCOM and the board for consideration on a regular basis, in line with, the XCOM and board meetings. And I think even going, every 2 months is not enough, given the full agenda. Now, I ran into one of our former CAC members on the tour last weekend. She's very, very involved, and, she was happy to hear that, she could get, re-engaged. She was turned out. And she had some fantastic ideas, like she was using small appliances to actually electrify. She had a fairly new, regular, resistant, stove instead of, the current induction one. So, so they're just ideas. And, and she did mention that when she was on the board, the CAC board, that, she thought that, they didn't need to have any meeting. But it seems like just in the current thing, there's a need. So maybe, between staff and the PCE board, that we could, have maybe the meetings as needed. And, if the agenda is light, we can cancel the meetings, which, we've done. So I would again recommend putting that on the schedule for every month. Oh, so, oh, I didn't see that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now we have a couple of online comments.
Yes, we do.
So I'm gonna try to really hold people to 2 minutes because we have 2 more agenda items and I have a hard stop at noon. So we gotta get out. So appreciate it.
Jason Mendelson, I believe you are.
How many mailing do we have online?
2.
Okay.
You're still muted, Jason.
Well, then I will keep it to 1:50. I was gonna say 1:50.
Thank you.
I
Go, Jason.
apologize. I've really enjoyed the conversation with many of you on the board and the staff, and I've read and listened to everything you've presented on this. Chair Colson recruited me 8 years or so ago, and again, I'm only speaking in my personal capacity, and since I did so before, I'll be quick. As some of you know, I've raised my 3 children here, run a small business here, attended elementary through high school in the county, and only 1 county over for college, law school, and business school. But this is where I've put my volunteering energy for the last decade. My main priority as trying to help out with Peninsula Clean Energy was just to help with the enabling mission and the current mission to continue, which was to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and help customers through a community-based organization, which PCE does like no other in the country or world. I've loved my time doing that. My only goal is to keep PCE environmentally focused, community focused. My term is up anyway. My term was actually up several months ago. I was asked to stay on. I happily did so because I love this organization. For me, though, and I think that, as you saw, I abstained from our vote from the recommendation because I do think that the forum could be carried out under the existing Brown Act structure. To me, the Brown Act structure is the key. It provides for diligence, reliability, and accountability. I worked for 18 years for Woodside on a Brown Act committee where that diverse group was able to provide a forum where you had people show up who were committed to it. When we broke out into a non-Brown Act forum, it dissolved almost immediately. I hope this one won't. But my fear is that without that, in 5 years, you won't have this engagement at this level where they feel heard and important and help keep everybody on track, help the staff, help the board from the community volunteers who are very diverse. I only give myself 10 more seconds in which I want to say that I think we've done really good work, as you've all said as well. I think we've had great diversity. And at least for the last year plus that I've been doing it, we've stayed on that agenda and been over by 9:05. And even though we've all spent maybe 20 extra hours beyond those 3-hour meetings, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you. Last one.
Desiree, should we just go?
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Desiree's here.
Okay,
That's
so
okay.
thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to share public comment about this item on your agenda today. My comments are on behalf of myself. I was a member of the CAC from its start in 2017 until last year, 2024. I also served as chair for 2 years from 2019 to 2021. I'm very grateful for the opportunity I had to serve PCE and interact with staff, the board, and most importantly, our community. I also want to acknowledge that change is hard, and now that I'm not part of the CAC, I have the benefit of any changes to the committee not affecting me so directly. But I do have the full historical context of the committee and how it evolved over time. For example, adding working groups and growing interest in the committee such that recent applications have been very oversubscribed. One drawback of the CAC has always been the fact that it's a Brown Act committee. This has limited discussions to agendized items, and few members of the public or CBO partners have attended meetings. Now that PCE is evolving from an electricity provider with an automatic opt-in to a trusted source of clean energy and electrification, customers need to make the choice to electrify. This will require a more concerted effort between PCE and various stakeholders and community organizations to create a groundswell of action. I support the establishment of a community feedback forum to support the needs of PCE over the next few years. I'm glad that CAC members can stay engaged by participating in the community feedback forum, and thrilled that the voices of a wider audience will be heard, and that more flexible options for discussions in a non-Brown Act committee format can be used, such as breakout sessions or open Q&A. One of the things I admire about PCE staff and the board is that they don't sit on their laurels and think about how to adjust to changing priorities, changing markets, and changing needs of the community. It's not an easy decision to make, but I hope the executive committee will support this change to establish the community feedback forum to help PCE engage more supporters and better enable PCE to reach its ambitious goals. Thank you.
Thank you. It's there. Yeah, no, she's great. Thank you, Desiree. I appreciate it. Any other additional comments? Okay, I'm going to close public comment. And I would like to know if this committee would like to make some sort of a recommendation to the full board.
I move that we support the recommendation and make that to the full board.
Okay, and we'll make clear in that the working committees will stay. And do you want to add on?
And I suggest that that the community feedback forum meet every other month.
Okay,
At a minute.
no, every other month, no more.
Every other month, or as needed.
Well, it's 4 to 6.
Well, working groups should meet more often than every other month.
As needed,
Yeah,
as needed,
Yeah,
because
they should
working
meet as
groups
needed.
meet as needed, and the community feedback forum would meet. I'm okay 4 to 6 times a year with us, if people have a tendency to want to do 6, I just don't want to, I want them to be successful. So if it's 5, it's 5, if it's 4 really good ones, you know, I kind of like to leave a little bit of discretion for staff for that, but
Yeah, I agree that with 4 to 6, 6 is every other month, and you do get like the November, December timeframe is
Really
so
hard.
tricky. So I like the 4 to 6, and you know, maybe it's just that we don't have it November, December, but we have it you know, February, what else are you gonna do, right? We have it February and March, right? And then we maybe skip August and,
yeah.
you know,
some of it driven by topic. That's the other issue. It's like, let's let the content drive
Yeah.
the discussion and the timing, not having to try and come up with agenda items to fit a timeline.
And you may
That's the
have
challenge.
one that's so popular that you need to do it again. Like you need to roll it over again. Like you get a lot of attendees, you're hearing, and you feel like you need to do it again. So I would leave that to staff. So we have a motion, Jen, just because I want to make sure this is clear. So we have a motion to accept the board's recommendation with the working groups continuing to be an avenue by which people can participate with 4 to 6.
My motion is 6. so
Your motion
I don't
is
agree
6.
with that.
Okay.
I second that motion.
For 6?
For six,
We
yes,
have
we
discussion
can have
before
discussion,
we
yes.
vote. I really think we need the flexibility. I'd rather not lock us in. We may end up where we say we need 6 or 7, but locking in a number, just then we're changing it again. I think we need to kind of find a way with it. We know we have a minimum of 4 to 6 is the starting point.
Okay, we can also, we have a motion and we can vote on, yeah, and another conversation.
My question is, I'm unclear as to what continuing the working groups actually means, and I don't know that we want to get into it now, but I'd like a little more clarification at some point
Yeah, I
about
think-
that. And I'd also like to have, I don't know if a formal evaluation at 1 year would be, or somewhere around there, would it should actually be part of the motion.
Sure, yeah.
So the working groups are similar to ad hoc committees from the board, and during which a staff member will meet with a interested group of CAC members, and that would be interested group of community members. And it's a really great informal way to get direct feedback and build some community support among key stakeholders. And so I think our staff find that very valuable and would like to continue.
So, we may have some disagreement about the 4 to 6 or the 6, so we do have a motion on the table, we can vote, if it doesn't carry, then we can make a new motion and re-vote.
We also have a hand up from, we have a hand down, from Director Lorraine.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I can say why I think the 6 is right. Everybody that we've heard from that's participated in these monthly meetings has said that they won't have the same focus if it meets quarterly versus monthly. So I'm listening to these are community members, right? They're not board members, they're community members. And I'm listening to the community members saying that they want to have more participation than they feel like they would have if it was every once a quarter versus once a month. And I think the comment that, well, it doesn't make sense maybe to meet in November and December, that's perfectly fine.
Would you be willing to change it? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how to amend your motion to like up to 6, and I think the staff is hearing you. My issue is really like, you know, forcing a round peg in the square hole. Like, I just feel like I'm hearing from 4 or 5 specific people who want every other month meetings. These meetings are not going to be necessarily every other month. They're going to be a little more lumpy, I think. And you know, I'm just trying to find a way to give the staff to make this successful.
Also note that we might need a little bit of runway to get the first one going.
Yeah.
Could we do
Yeah.
that?
Or 6 within the first 18 months or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Yes, Anders, please.
Thank you. I'm listening to all of that, obviously, I think the success of this community organization is not dependent on how many meetings they make, but the topic at which they discuss and the necessity of those meetings. I'm fine with 4 to 6 to the point where whether it is actually 4 or is it actually 5 or is it actually 6, let this community group work with our senior staff to figure that out in the end. Right? If they can, I got to believe everybody's busy and that their time is valuable, and that if they believe that there's important to discuss, the staff would value that time. And if there isn't, well, then I'm sure everybody's busy, right? There are important things to do. So the key point here is to make sure that these meetings are effective and actually accomplish the intended goal. And I think I have confidence with the senior staff, right, Sean, and we need to figure that out. After the full meeting, however you want to adjust, did this actually 4? Is it actually 5? Is it actually 6? Or if you need an extra one, if you do. Yeah. I have no problem with you meeting them at a 7th time if you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, this, to me, it's, we're setting a policy and a guideline, but rather than telling you when you can or cannot meet. I think as a board, We just want
Yes.
this to be effective.
Betsy?
I actually, Anders just said exactly what I was thinking, which is, I also don't want to limit to only 6, if in fact we need more. So I like the flexibility.
Yes.
Maybe it's at least 4.
Marty?
Yes, so thank you. Great points. Going from 12 down to potentially 4 is kind of where I think that's a big reduction. And if our intent is to reach out to our community even more, then it kind of goes against that. And I don't want to have meetings to just have meetings. I mean, it's important that we have effective meetings, but if we're going to be going to different parts of the community, then we will only be going there maybe once on the coast and maybe only once in the North Bay. And so I trust staff is going to find the right number, but the 4 number kind of was, that's just too little.
Well,
I mean,
again, you may have 4 meetings, 4 topics. And you may have the same meeting up in the North County and then in South County. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if you had a topic on EV charging, let's just say, and you had it up in the North County or on the coast or something, there may be an opportunity if you get a lot of interest. And it's an in-person meeting that then they could replicate the same meeting. Is that 2 meetings or is that the same meeting held in 2 spots? So again, I just want to give them a little bit of flexibility to do what they need to do in order to handle it without us sort of, we're gonna get a feedback in a year. We can understand in a year where we need to go. And if we're hearing from our communities that they're not seeing enough opportunity, plus they can always come to our meeting, which is once a month. So twice a month, they can come to the executive committee or the regular board meeting and listen. There's an audit and finance committee, and then, which are all available meetings to me as well. I guess I just feel like I don't want to have the tail wagging the dog because 7 members of the CAC are disillusioned that they're not going to be able to come 12 times a year. I think it's too small of a group to list. I think the staff has really well thought this out, and I'd like to give them some discretion.
Can I speak really
Yeah,
quick?
please.
Can I have one question?
Please.
Yeah.
These meetings, since they're not Brown Act, is it gonna be Zoom available?
Yes, yes. So
So North, South County,
Here's the
Central
truth of it.
Coastline, they can all come together.
we can do 6 meetings.
Yeah.
We may not meet, so part of this whole thing has also been to like, let's make sure that we are meeting about topics that need some discussion and feedback and all of that. Rather than sort of the tail wagging the dog is a good metaphor. It's likely that we're gonna do 6 meetings this coming year. It's, that's what's going on, because it's augmenting voice of the customer. So these are all things that we are evolving and becoming more sophisticated and inclusive in how we want to do this work. It is not a function of meeting on a certain Tuesday on the certain, right? It's really a function of being driven by what we're hearing and what the content is. So it's likely that we're gonna do 6 meetings. We're asking for a little bit of breathing room to figure out how these things dance together. Kirsten and Vanessa will be running this, so these women are amazing at their meetings, so there's likely to be more than less.
We're enthusiastic.
They're enthusiastic. So I want to appreciate the flexibility and also give you comfort that 6 is okay. Let's do a 1-year review.
Yeah.
I really want to make sure also that when we get to the full board, I'm taking copious notes of places where we need to beef up the report probably, so that everyone understands how the CAC is invited to continue.
The
Right.
ways in which they can still
Yes,
continue.
exactly.
Which is beyond just the voice.
And so really framing this not as a negative thing, but like, this is exciting. And hopefully they can hold it that way. Change is hard, yes. But let's go forward and invite more people into the tent. We will likely do 6 meetings a year. So we're not fussing about that. That's fine.
Yeah.
So let's say, Marty, do you agree with this? So let's say target 6 meetings subject to staff review.
Sure.
Minimum of 4, target 6, right? Is that fair?
If there's 4, I think it's a disaster.
Okay,
I
fine.
completely disagree with that.
Okay.
Going from 12 to 4, Marty said it very
Well,
well.
why don't you just say?
And I don't think it matters where the meetings are. The meeting should Why wouldn't the meetings just be at our headquarters and on Zoom, wherever?
Because they
It's
might
not a
be-
Brown meeting. You can have lots of Zoom.
Because there might be 100 people that want to participate in person and this won't hold that, so.
Well, they
we'll
can
take
either
ours.
come to the facility or they can get on Zoom.
Can you
Yeah,
give us
we
a little
can deal with
flexibility
that.
on that,
Yeah,
please?
let's just deal with that at a certain point. Yes.
I just wanted to say, coming from the North County, I encourage people to go to CAC meetings and board meetings, and they don't. It's a long drive. They go, Woodstock, are you kidding me? And I'm gonna go at night?
I get that.
Seriously, it's a
Totally get
problem. So the idea, that's one thing I'm so excited about this, is we can go different places, and there are people in my community, they're very into energy. They would probably go to a couple meetings then, but they don't. They just feel like it's all South County and they're being ignored. And I think this is a good move where they'll feel more part of it. That's why I'm so excited about it.
And if it doesn't work after a year, we all know how to amend the plan.
And also a year is flexible, like if it's 14 months or 16 months, like just, yes, and then I have Director Lorraine. Director Lorraine. Let me go
Thank
with
you. I
Director
just
Lorraine.
wanna mention, I think I agree with those committee members who are interested in giving staff flexibility. I don't think we wanna pin ourselves to 6 meetings without knowing what the topics are or how to even do this. So I'm just telegraphing that I would vote no on a motion for 6. Thank you.
Would you be willing to amend your, Betsy? Do you have a comment? Okay, so my question to the motion maker and the amenders, would you be?
I can offer an alternate motion if you like.
Cool.
Here. But I'll let you finish.
Well, let me ask
Oh,
the
we've got-
maker of the motion.
We've got Jen too, might have a comment on.
Jen,
this.
please.
Chair, you can go ahead and ask about the amendment. I just want to make sure that we do deal with the motion that's on the.
That's what I'm
floor that
saying.
has been
I'm
seconded.
asking the maker of the motion and the seconder if they would make an amendment.
Okay.
We did amend it to say targeting 6,
Okay.
subject to staff approval.
Okay,
It could be more, it could be less.
Okay,
subject to
good.
staff
Are you
approval.
okay to make that amendment?
Absolutely.
All right, Director Lorraine, does that? Let's just take a vote and
Yes.
we'll see where it lies. All right, roll call vote, Millie.
So just to recap, what I have as a motion here. To accept the recommendation with the inclusion of working groups continuing as needed with targeting 6 CFF meetings subject to staff review.
Yeah.
Okay. San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton.
Yep.
Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Aye.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Mateo.
Yes.
Okay,
Motion passed.
motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I know this has been a very sloggy journey, but we're here and I appreciate it.
We're here.
Thank you. We have about 20 minutes, Nick. Oh, you're on next, right?
Justin.
Justin. Oh, okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. That was very helpful. So Justin, and you're doing the Q1 fiscal year.
Nope, solar billing plan. Here on auto.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong
Different meeting.
agenda. I have two
Solar
agendas
billing.
open. All right, solar billing.
Thank you
Please,
very much.
Justin.
Justin Kudo, Associate Director for Rates and Strategic Analysis. Talking about solar billing plan and some exciting updates today. I will try to move through fairly quickly as I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch right now. Next slide. So just a brief recap of what solar billing plan is. Solar billing plan is the successor tariff to net energy metering. Not the kind of tariffs we're used to hearing about on a federal level right now, but more a set of rules and methods for crediting customers when they send energy to the grid, what's called exporting energy. Solar billing plan replaced net energy metering for installations after April of 2023. In addition, it applies to customers who have been on net metering for more than 20 years. We have about 3,300 customers on solar billing plan. That compares to about, I think about 22,000 on net metering right now. And the key difference is net metering works by what's you kind of have heard advertised probably as running your meter backwards, where you get a full retail rate credit for energy that's being sent up to the grid. That's great in a lot of ways, but it also means you're ultimately being credited for billing, customer service costs, transmission costs, and things that just aren't present in the exported energy that's being delivered. Under solar billing plan, customers are credited based on what that electricity is actually worth when in the hour that it's exported. So what it's worth to the utility or CCA. And the great thing about solar billing plan is that it has really promoted energy storage. We only saw about 10% of net metering installs with batteries under solar billing plan because it heavily incentivizes exporting energy during the peak evening hours that we have about 80% of the customers in our service area have storage. And 70% on a statewide level. So what are the goals of our changes here today? Really, we are trying to clean up the end of year payment process for excess exported energy from solar billing plan customers. We want to make sure that the export payments that are being given are fair and justified by the value of the energy that's being provided. And we also want to make solar billing plan as easy to understand as possible. I've had a lot of discussions about how technical a lot of this stuff can be. I try to keep it simple, but it is very complex. I was just checking and PG&E's equivalent tariff is 48 pages. So we are trying to keep it more comprehensible for customers because it's simply not fair to expect customers to read through that. So to understand this, we have to talk about how customers get credits right now. When customers send energy to the grid or export it, they get export credits. Those credits can then be applied against any Peninsula Clean Energy charges that are due. And the credits are based on the month, whether it's a weekday or a weekend, and the hour at which that electricity is sent to the grid. The graph here displays the average export rates over by hour across the entire year. The credits that customers generate are carried forward from month to month, and they can be applied to future Peninsula charges, but it's important to note that they can only be applied to our charges, not PG&E charges, and they're not eligible for payment to customers. Now, separately, let's look at how payments happen during the customer's annual true-up. Payments happen through something that's called net surplus compensation. That's an industry term for these end-of-year payments for surplus electricity. It uses a methodology where it simply it ignores all the credits the customer has and looks at the customer's exported energy sent to the grid and imported energy, their usage that's been purchased from the grid. If that number is negative, they're credited at a rate of approximately 3 cents per kilowatt hour. As you can see here in this graph, that's generally significantly lower than the export credit rates. So to really illustrate this, I felt a need to show a customer example and kind of where the issue is right now. We have here Annie for annual, and, yeah, a little cheesy, annual true up for this customer and what it would look like for this customer and what's going to be their experience. So this customer has $150 in export credits that they've been accruing over the course of the year. Annie has, for the last 11 months, generated net credits, has $150 in credits on her account. She gets a new bill, her last bill for the year, $25. That credit's applied and it brings her credit down to $125. She then carries that $125 forward into the next year. Separately, she gets her net surplus compensation payment. In this example, 1,000 kilowatt hours eligible for net surplus compensation that we credit at a rate of 4 cents per kilowatt hour, slightly above PG&E's rate. So she gets paid $40. There's a few problems here. One, Annie's seeing that she has $125 in credit on her account and she gets a payment for $40. That doesn't match up and it does lead to calls and customer confusion. Secondly, Annie's accrued $125 at the end of this year. At the end of next year, she'll probably accrue about $125 again and again and again. After 4 years, she'll have about $500 in credit on her account, but she doesn't have a way to actually spend that credit unless she adds load. Additionally, we carry those balances forward as liabilities, which isn't great from an accounting standpoint. The other issue here is that Annie's keeping both credits for the same energy. She's getting the initial export credits that are based on what the energy is worth. And the net surplus compensation credits are essentially an extra value added on top of that. So that has a cost to us. It's very marginal right now, but as we expect more and more customers to be on the solar billing plan over the years, it's something that we wanted to address sooner rather than later. So this is how we're proposing to deal with this issue. Annie here, excuse me, still has $125 in credit at the end of the year. We're proposing that we will no longer carry that forward as credit, but we will actually pay it out in full, not the $40, pay out that full $125. And that would be applied as a bill credit or as a check optionally to the customer, or as a check if it's over a certain amount. $500 is the threshold currently. But this way she can actually utilize that credit and go towards paying other charges. It gets the amounts off of our books. It makes sure that there's only that single initial payment, export credit payment. It solves all of these issues, and it does it in a very simple, straightforward way, while also taking out this secondary valuation that can be confusing for customers. One of the inevitable questions we get asked, I think I was always going to be, well, how does this compare to PG&E? So I did want to address that here. And I apologize because it's very complex. I've tried to boil it down to be simple here, and it's still really not, frankly. But the way PG&E is dealing with this additive credit issue is they said, well, rather than not pay this 3 cents at the end, they said, well, we'll still pay the 3 cents, but we're actually going to go backward in time and take away 8 cents. So you net out a 3 cent payment with an 8 cent charge, you actually get a 5 cent charge. So customers with PG&E on solar billing plan right now are actually getting charges for exported energy that they're sending to the grid, which is resulting in some confusion and some problems, and some people reconsidering how this program functions. And so part of what we're hoping to do here too is we are setting what we think is a clear, straightforward, data-driven, market price-driven example of how this could be handled by other utilities or CCAs. So the recommendation is to please recommend to the Board of Directors approval of the revised solar billing plan tariff, which has been attached to this item. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Justin, really appreciate that. Questions? Okay, so yes, I'll start. Betsy, go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Betsy.
I had one question. Thank you for this, by the way, and it does make it much more understandable. I know it's very complicated, especially for people like me. So for Annie, if she takes that 125, she doesn't request a check, so she has 125 credit to pay other things. Can that pay the PG portion of her bill?
Under the current structure, it cannot. It's kept in escrow balance with Peninsula. Under the proposed structure,
That's what I mean.
at the end of the year, it would be applied as a bill credit to the customer account, at which point it can be applied to other charges.
Perfect, thank you.
Betsy.
So I have two questions. One is, it sounds really good. What are the cons? Why wouldn't? Is there any reason why we wouldn't want to do this? What am I missing?
I think this is a great idea. Of course, that's why I'm proposing it and being proactive about it. So, but I'd say one of the potential issues here is there are for some customers, taking Annie, for example, here, in the existing paradigm, she gets $165 total in credits. Under the new paradigm, it would be $125. So it is less overall credit, although it's much more capable of being utilized and much more based on the actual market value.
Thank you. And then my other question is, if I understood the staff report correctly, it's trued up in April. Why was April chosen as opposed to January or July, which seems more like that?
That's sort of a holdover from net energy metering. Under net metering, customers would accrue credit during the year, and in particular, they used to accrue almost all their credits during summer months. And then they would expend those credits to the winter months. And so April is kind of the cutoff or was the cutoff between April and May. So that's when the true ups were sort of initiated. And that has become sort of a pattern among CCAs, that most CCAs do it that way, just to make sure those credits were fully depleted. It's not really so applicable here, although we still kind of have a fairly consistent April date, because among other things, that's when the cutoff was instituted for solar billing plan. But it's not really set in stone. That's just the way we have it done. It certainly makes it easier from an administrative level.
Thank you.
Yes, Colin.
Oh, we've heard here and there of some people that use very little electricity and have extensive solar. So do we have, I have to ask the question, do we have some customers that they'll be getting these extraordinary payments?
So I believe when we looked at it, our credits, had we applied the new methodology to the credits at the end of last year, our solar billing plan credits at the end of the year payments would have been about $44,000. So it's not, it's fairly de minimis for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Fuller.
Justin, that was very clear and well organized. I have two questions. One is there's a difference between those customers that generate more electricity than they use, which is Annie. Of the 25,000 customers with rooftop solar between them and the solar billing tariff, approximately how many are generating more power than they consume?
I don't have that information handy, although I think the last I checked, it was around 15% or so.
15% sounds about right. That's consistent with the past. I'd like to see what the impact here, and I know it doesn't deal with the export credit issue, what the impact is of those 85% of our rooftop solar customers who don't use as much power as they export, because the solar billing credit has a big impact on them too, right? Whereas NEM, they got that excess power that they generated during the summer and were able to apply that against uses later in the year. Or if, depending on how much they use, excess power that they generate during that non-peak period when the sun is the most intense, they are able to then apply against peak and partial peak periods in that day that they generate it. But with solar billing tariff, they get paid out based on a wholesale rate from when they export the energy, right? Whereas they're not getting a credit.
Well, they get a credit, but it does vary on an hourly basis. It is part of what heavily incentivizes using battery storage under it. In particular, during August and September, when energy prices are the highest, or exporting energy during those peak hours can generate large credits. In fact, of that 85% of customers who do not produce as much electricity as they use, if they are exporting very strictly during those peak hours, they can completely pay for their energy charges and wind up with a credit balance at the end of the year under the new proposal. Under the existing structure, they don't get any payment at the end of the year and still wind up with the credit balance. Under the new system, those customers would get paid out.
Real quick question, Justin. So if somebody terminates their account, like they move, or they move out of county and close down their business or whatever, what happens?
That's an excellent question. One I meant to cover, but that one slipped my mind. When accounts close, any credit balance that they have, export credit balance, that is zeroed out. And then if they have a negative kilowatt hour balance and are net surplus compensation eligible, they get paid out the net surplus compensation.
In a check, we just send them a check. Or
I have to double check on that because it does vary a little bit, but The challenge can be sometimes you don't have forwarding information
Yeah.
to reach out. So I believe they have to actually reach out to us to let us know, and then we can send out the check, but I could be mistaken on that. I'll
There's a way to.
double check on it for you.
A way to handle that, okay. Let me open it up to members of the public. Anyone have questions?
I just wanted to say something
Yeah,
quickly.
please.
When Justin and Leslie brought this proposal to us, part of me was, we're talking small dollars, so as CFO, I was sort of like, why? And you see the number of customers, there's a little bit, why, spend time with the board and the executive committee, but I do think one thing I want to give them credit for, hopefully you guys appreciate, is the thought leadership here. That's why we brought Justin on board. We can't obviously force PG&E or other CCA to change, but we're hoping by leading the charge on these kind of I think improvements, simplicity can influence others to potentially take action. So I just want to make sure we get some quote credit for
And I
that.
think that's part of our strategic planning.
Yes.
So this probably counts.
Does this count?
Does this
Yeah.
count?
Does this count?
We need to move it to.
Okay, move it to January. We'll let you carry
Thank
it
you, Justin.
forward. But Justin, thank you. That's very, very helpful.
Is there a final slide there?
Oh,
Justin,
yes,
with the
there is.
recommendation?
Do we have a public comment? You come on up. You're fine.
Oh, excuse me.
You.
Hello, again, Ramey Tan, a resident of Pacifica, also CAC member, but again, speaking for myself on this one. I did kind of have a question comment, because I do have solar. It's a 10-year-old system and I had gotten it before I got an EV and before, we started looking at full electrification on the house. So, unfortunately, because the system's old, we can't add on to it. So we're kind of stuck with a system now has half, covers half our energy needs because of the EV and, some limited electrification. So I'm wondering like how many customers are in that situation? And the issue that I've had is since, we got the EV, which is the biggest use, we have a huge bill at the end of the true up period. Which means, I gotta fork out several $100s in 1 month, which, I'm, financially sort of okay with that, but I know a lot of customers, are living month to month, especially with, all the inflation. So I'm wondering why, instead of doing this true up, you would have just kind of a payment, every month,
We'll let Justin.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I've had this conversation with a lot of my neighbors. Maybe we live near each other. No, this is a pretty common problem right now. Net metering allows for some really advantageous sort of export pricing under the current system. Expanding your system by more than 1 kW, I believe, makes you no longer eligible for net metering. And so there's a little bit of wiggle room. If you want to expand your system, you can, but electric vehicles, especially for very energy efficiency homes, if homes add so much load to it, it can make it very challenging. And, I think that's sort of a cost benefit analysis each person's gonna have to do. Is it worth switching over, especially knowing you might need a battery, but it's gonna vary from case to case. And I wish I had a universal answer for you, but I'd be happy to talk with you more about it after the meeting.
I'll go ahead and close public comment. Are there any kind of comments or would anyone like to make a motion?
Wait, I'm here, Leslie. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, listen. Oh,
Hi, yeah. I just wanted to confirm on the I don't remember which director asked the question about the early true up if someone terminates their account. We do automatically issue a check to the last known address on the account. It is an issue though. We don't always get the right forwarding address, but we do try to get those checks out as soon as possible after the account closes, which is about 60 to 90 days. So that ideally if that customer has a forwarding, instruction, with their old address, that our check gets picked up in that process and forwarded to their new address. So yeah.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Okay.
Motion.
Motion? Yes, Director Nash?
Oh, I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend approval of the revised solar billing plan tariff effective January 1st, 2026. Can we have a second by Director Ragsdale? Can we take a roll call vote, please?
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton.
Yeah.
Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Menlo Park.
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Mateo. Thank you, motion carries.
Okay, great. Thank you all very much. Appreciate everybody being here for quorum today. I think we have one more meeting next month. Two more meetings, a November and a December meeting.
Actually, it was just December.
Oh, just
Yeah.
December. Okay, great.
Yep, and the December executive committee, we're still working on what that looks like and whether or not we have enough items to warrant a meeting. We have a big meeting next week for the board meeting, lots to discuss there, and then December tends to drop off a little
Trust me,
bit, but
if there's
more
no
coming.
need, I
Right.
think.
I know, everyone's
everybody
okay.
will be Absolutely happy to get a couple hours.
It may
back
mean
on
that
the-
policy
I don't
16,
think-
you know, it's okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right.
Are there, just our last item is committee members report?
Oh, yes, community member reports, anyone? All right,
Good.
hearing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Ooh,
Over one.
Good, very
better
timely.
run out the door.
Good.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.